Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. This is Jeff with Fluent American checking in once more to take a look at your pronunciation in American English, helping you target your pronunciation. As you can see, we have a couple sentences that we're going to be taking a look at, including this one and our second one here. We're going to give you some suggestions on how you can say these in a way that sounds the most natural. And then we'll listen also to your pronunciation files to give some suggestions and things like that. As we go through these, if you have questions, be sure to ask them so that way we can go through it. And yeah, so that's going to be our target. The questions that we're going to be taking a look at, or the sentences we're going to take a look at, these include some idioms. So we'll explain some vocab as well. Just say some quick hellos. Hello to Shok. Hello to Emmanuel checking in too, which is great. And if you're the first time here, be sure to let us know. Say hey. And if you're a returner, also let us know too. It'd be great to hear from you again, and welcome back to the channel. Again, these live streams happen every Saturday right at this time. Um, Earlier than usual. So in the US, we did change our time zone. Was it last week? It was last week or 2 weeks ago. So that may be having an impact. I know a lot of European countries already changed before us. I feel like the US and Europe are always like kind of like this weird. There's always this time of the year where it's like a 6 hour difference, and then sometimes it goes back to 5, and it's always kind of bouncing around. Yeah. So I think if we are appearing at a different time for you, then that is the reason why. Okay. And again, if you are joining us for the first time and you want to get your own pronunciation analyzed, this is where you need to go. You will see it at the top of the chat box. I have also pinned it so that way you can access the document and be able to add your own pronunciation by following the directions there. All right. Enjoy and get as much sleep as you can. I know for my son, a lot of times it can be a tricky thing. This is the hard one. In the fall, it's much easier because you get some extra sleep. Um, but yeah, let's take a look at our first sentence here. So I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes. I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes. As always, there are many different options in terms of pronunciation, what you can be doing to get this sounding natural in terms of stress and things like that. But just really quick for the phrase, like to learn the ropes means like to master something for the first time, or like to study something, or to get used to something. So that's to learn the ropes, relatively common expression there. Um, but in terms of stress, what are some of the words that we're going to be emphasizing here? I just started. I would either put the stress on just, it's like I just started, I just started, or put the stress on started, I just started. Probably you wouldn't get the stress on both of them. You'd probably pick one or the other. It's like I just started, or I just started. In terms of the second sentence, I would probably put my stress on still. So I still have to learn the ropes. I still have to learn the ropes. You could, though, also put the stress on ropes. So I still have to learn the ropes. Okay. But in general, for this sentence, I personally would probably put the stress on the adverbs. Besides that, what are some other things that are going to be key to saying this in a way that sounds really natural? Just started. So to help smooth that out, one thing that you could do is you could technically remove the T and just say, like, I just started. Take off the T on just and just connect it with start. So like I just started. I just started. Another option could be to use like a held T, like I just started. I just started. So there's some options there that you can do for linking. So you're gonna have some linking there with the so I using a slight W sound. It's like so I, so I, so I. So I still have to learn. Have to learn. Still have to learn. Still have to learn. It's like have to learn. A lot of times, it's just some options you have. You could pronounce have to like half with like an F sound if you really wanted. Like you do have to. So also with that T on two, you can either keep the T, it's like have to, or you could replace it with more like a fast D sound, like have the, have to, have to. So again, have to or have to. Either of those are going to be things that you will hear. Still have to learn. Still have to learn. Um, Learn the ropes. Learn the ropes. That's another sequence there that you want to make sure that you're pronouncing in a way that's very fluid and flowing. It's like learn the ropes. Learn the ropes. You don't need a super strong N sound on learn. It's not learn the, it's more learn the, learn the. Just try to practice linking from that N to that TH. Learn the. It's like the. It's almost like pressing hard against your ridge where your tooth and your gum meet. Press hard there and then release. The. Learn the ropes. Learn the ropes. You don't necessarily need a very clear like TH sound. It doesn't have to be like learn the. It's more learn the ropes. Because it's reduced. Nothing there is really stressed. Nothing there is super heavy. So you can move through a little bit faster. Learn the ropes. And that's going to be the key thing for this sentence is there's lots of reductions and there's lots of linking. So that's going to allow you to kind of move pretty quickly through this. So you don't want anything to be super, super strong. Just a note there. Learn the ropes. Learn the ropes. Okay. You do want to make sure your stresses are coming in clearly. So if you do feel like you're mumbling it or something's not, maybe it's a little bit too flowy, then something you can consider is make sure your stressed words are really clear. It's like I just started. So I still have to learn the ropes. Or I just started. So I still have to learn the ropes. Just make sure your stressed words again are coming in very clearly. In terms of some vowel sounds, consonant sounds, they're going to be key. Firstly, with the schwa sound, for instance, in a word like just like that, just. Okay, it's like what I see a lot of students doing is they're like it's like just versus just. Can you hear a difference between and for that sound? Again, the back of your tongue's relatively down, middle of your tongue's a little bit high, front of your tongue is down, lips relatively closed. And again, you're projecting from a low open position. Lots of air coming through the throat. Don't block it off. Otherwise, you may get more of that sound when you really, you want more of an sound. Just. Other key sounds, short I sound, like in a word like still. It's very easy for that to become more of like an E sound, like steel, but it's not eel. It's more ill, still. So I still have to learn. Other things too, the sound like in half or half, like that like in cat. It's not hif, it's half. Notice again, my mouth's pretty wide. Also, you shouldn't be able to see back into my throat because of the middle of my tongue is high for that sound. Notice you can really see my tongue there. Okay. I still have to learn the ropes. Other sounds that can be tricky too is or include that R sound in learn. If you feel like you're getting that means you're kind of staying like around here, and maybe the back of your tongue isn't high enough. Okay. Conversely, if you're getting more of an then the back of your tongue's probably high, but again, you're still probably like around here. Like if you're saying learn versus learn. The tricky part with that R is that again, the back of your tongue is high, but you're projecting from a lower spot and you need lots of air to go through the throat. So you're blocking air here, but your throat itself needs to be pretty open. Okay. This is also going to be similar for learn that we see in started, which I see write some comment on started. It's like learn, star. It's like lur, star. It's the same sort of sound there. Okay, so practicing that. So watch out for those R sounds. That always can be a little tricky. Of course, we have content that does talk about that in some other videos as well, if that is a difficult sound. Some other things that I think I remember just from listening to people's audios quickly is the O sound in so. Some sounds that you want to pay attention to. So it's not so, and it's not it's oh. So you will see my mouth close, right? Oh. The way this is often taught is you start with your mouth wide and then finish with small round lips, like oh. And there is nothing wrong with doing that. But something that I see a lot of students doing, if they do that, is it makes the sound tenser because you start shifting your placement forward, like oh, and you don't want to do that. You want to keep it oh. So notice that because of placement, because my mouth is staying, because I'm projecting from a lower position, and because I'm allowing lots of air to come through my throat, I'm still able to maintain that oh sound without losing it. Okay, so just kind of something to watch out for, and we'll be listening for in your audio files momentarily. Okay. I know that a couple questions came in. Let us see. Ever heard of Rachel's English? Yeah, I mean Rachel, she's probably like the biggest American English pronunciation channel. I have not reached out to her. I'm very small fish, but I mean I guess it never hurts to send a message. Yeah, I could send a message, be like, hey, you want to do something? My guess is that she's probably super busy, but it never hurts to ask. Why not? That's a good idea. Okay, let's take a look at our second sentence then. We'll go as a toss-up. A toss-up. Just a quick note about that O sound. For the O sound, you start with a schwa like Yeah, I think that's fair because typically I would say that the back of your tongue is maybe a little bit higher than I would do for a schwa, but as long as you're starting off with something similar to that sound, you'll be okay. And again, there is nothing wrong with rounding the lips. I would just say be cautious and record yourself and see if you're making things more blocked off in terms of your airflow, making things a little bit too tense, because that's going to give you more of that O type sound. And as soon as you hear that, you can immediately know, I may not be getting enough air through. So it's kind of something to be paying attention to. And again, our second sentence here. So where we'll go is a toss-up between New York and London. Goes a toss-up between New York and London. I again would probably have two stresses here. I would probably stress toss-up. I would stress toss. We're using toss-up as a noun. So again, when you have like a phrasal, this is a phrasal noun. So like when you have a phrasal situation where it's used as a noun, you want to stress the first word. If you have it used as a verb, you'll stress the particle or the preposition. But it's a noun here. It's a toss-up. And if not sure what a toss-up means, a toss-up means like a coin toss. Like it's either going to be one thing or another thing. So that's the definition of a toss-up. So I'd probably stress toss between New York and London. A little stress on New York, but a heavier stress on London. Where we'll go is a toss-up between New York and London. Where we'll go is a toss-up between New York and London. So kind of something to pay attention to there. Some things that you want to be paying attention to when you pronounce these. Probably just based on my conversations with students and things like that, the part that I would see students having the biggest issue with is the city name London. London. You start off with a schwa sound. So like la. Okay. So you want to make sure you're getting that sound really clear, which you mentioned earlier for the schwa. And then you're finishing with a short I sound. Din. It's like London, at least in American English, right? And that in sound can be tricky. You want to make sure it stays short I and doesn't become like E. So it's not een, it's more in. If you find that a tricky combination, or you're not sure if you find that a tricky combination, you're not sure if you're pronouncing it right or not, then I would suggest recording yourself doing this exercise. Say like and then in. In. And ideally, the vowel should sound the same for both of those. However, if you notice that there's a difference in how those sound, then you can target like, oh, the I sounds okay, but then when I add the N, it changes. Or maybe the I sound doesn't even sound okay. So then you know, oh, I need to focus on that vowel sound a little bit more. I would say that the short I, that I sound, is one of the tends to be one of the more difficult vowel sounds that a lot of people have in American English. So pay attention to that. Okay. We have a question. Can you reduce the short I in London to a schwa? Like London, done, like London. I personally wouldn't, but just because I don't doesn't mean it's not possible. I'm going to do some quick research for you. Let's see how frequent this is that it gets reduced to a schwa. Interesting. Siamese doesn't have American English. It only has British English. I would say, yeah, you can. You could probably get away with it. What I would say, though, is that for a lot of transcriptions that I see in dictionaries with reductions, especially, a lot of times when you think of reductions, you think of schwa sounds, like the sound made really quickly. But in reality, I think in a lot of words, a short I is a more natural sound for a lot of reductions than a schwa. For instance, take another word like, for instance, like action. I don't say action. It's not action. I say more action. Action. To me, it's more of a short I sound. So I think finishing that reduced part with a short I sound, that I think will give you a more natural sound, in my opinion. But if you're finishing with a schwa sound, especially if you're doing it fast enough, then I think you could be okay with that as well. I think that's a good question. And again, it's just my own suggestion. Feel free to ask other people. Let me know what they say. Ever been donated? I have not been donated to, but we're open for donations. We'll go as a toss-up between New York and London. Other things you want to be aware of. So for New York, this is a place. And typically, if you have a place that has two words in it, you want to put the stress on the second one. Okay, the second syllable, or just the second word, I should say. It's like, it's not New York, it's New York. It's not Central Park, it's Central Park. It's not Las Vegas, it's Las Vegas. It's not New Mexico, it's New Mexico. So typically with places, you want to stress the second word. Okay, so just note on that for New York. Other things you want to be aware of for pronunciation. Speaking of reductions, we talked a lot for London. We'll go. Notice that reduction on wool. Wool. It's usually not going to be where we'll go. It's where we'll go. Where we'll go. So notice that wheel becomes wool. 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 Almost like the material, like for clothing, like wool. Wool. Where we'll go. Where we'll go. Just a note about that. Some linking, you're going to get some linking with W sound between like go and is. Go is. Where we'll go is. Where we'll go is. If you, again, I always recommend recording yourself. If you record yourself, pay attention to how you're saying go is. If you're saying it like go is, then it's not really joined together and you're not going to get that natural sound. If you add a slight W sound, it's going to link it and it's going to sound a lot smoother. Go is. It's more like was, very light W sound. Go is a toss up between New York. Other linking you'll have, that N on between will link with the N on New York, between New York, between New York. Also on New York, and so notice that K on York is going to link with that A on and. Okay, so just a note. Okay. Interesting. I think this was it, but I'm not entirely sure. I have it up on StreamYard, but I don't have it up on the YouTube stream, so I can't see it. But I appreciate that. Thank you. That's very kind of you. I appreciate that. Other things going on with this sentence here. We'll go toss up between New York and London. Where we'll go is toss up between New York and London. Okay. I think those are most of my major notes, I would say, for that sentence. If you guys have other questions for me about anything that we mentioned there, be sure to let me know. Otherwise, you guys aren't here to just hear me talk about things. You guys are here to get some feedback for yourselves. So let us begin taking a look at your pronunciation. Oh, let me add myself there, right? Again, it's not little, it's more little.
The G host was class.
Are you feeling that here, or here? Okay, so you're going to see I have my headphones on, so that way I will be able to hear your pronunciation files. I'm also going to share my screen and my audio, so that way you can hear what I hear and see what I see. And again, we're going to be looking at these two sentences, and there is still time. If you want to send in your own pronunciation files, take a look at the top of the document. I have it pinned where you can send in your own audio files and things like that. All right, and without further ado, let me share all that fun stuff. And we want this one, bam, bam, bam. Okay, so let me put myself over here. Okay, we're talking about taking a look at London. By the way, this is the dictionary often used for pronunciation-related things. If you like etymology and learning about words and things like that, this is a great website to check out. It's wiktionary.org. Okay, make sure again it's not .com, it's .org. Usually they have a section for like British English or RP versus American English. Okay, they don't have it specifically for this word, but you can see they give you the word, so you can see they have that stressed schwa sound followed by the unstressed, and then usually they also have an audio file that you can listen to as well. It's not as helpful for London because they don't quite have the version I was looking for, but for a lot of other words, it's pretty great. Okay, and in terms of like the document and things like that, this is the document that you will see when you want to send your own pronunciation files. Okay, you'll see that there'll be directions. You can go to vocaboo.com. That's where all of these files are coming from. Basically, you record yourself. It gives you a link. You can then put that link right down here inside this box, and I will see it, and I'll be able to hear it. Okay. By the way, we also use this same document for all of our live streams. So if you're watching this on the replay, or if you're watching this right now and you're a little shy or a little nervous, or you don't want to say hello, you're just kind of lurking in the background, that's okay. I'm glad you're here. Maybe in the future, if you want to share your audio file, you can use this same document. I usually update it on Thursdays or Fridays, so that way you can send in your own pronunciation. Okay. All right, moving right along. So you can see I have some files up. Some have also come in since. And yeah, so we'll be doing, I think we have enough time to get through everybody, at least right now. All right, and I see that Sita's in the house. Great to see you again. I know life happens, so do what you can. It's great to have you here. Great to hear from you too if you want to send in an audio file. And let's mix it up. So we're not going to go quite in order. Let's just kind of see what we have here. And let's listen.
Where we'll go, it's a toss-up between New York and London.
Okay, so I'm hearing almost like 3 stresses, I think.
Where we'll go, it's a toss-up between New York and London.
Or maybe even 4. Let's listen to the first part.
Where we'll go.
Where we'll go. Do you hear that like on go? Compare how I'm saying go, 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 to how it's sounding here.
Where we'll go.
I'm hearing like go, 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 go. What's happening? I think that I think the back of your tongue is staying kind of high, even at the end of go. Okay, so I would try to lower the back of your tongue a little bit as you get to the end of the O sound. I would also say try to open up your throat a little bit more because it's sounding a little bit closed off. You're blocking off some air. So it's like, oh, versus oh, oh. So I would just try bouncing between these two sounds. Oh, go, oh, go. Really trying to open up that throat. If you're not sure how to do that, one exercise you can try is like, let's start just with an O sound that's more closed, and then we'll try to open up the throat. It's like, okay, so the whole time my placement's like around here, but what I'm doing is I'm opening up my throat to let more air through. So try and do exercises like that just to kind of get things a little bit wider. Okay. Yes, it's great to see you too. Everyone's so kind. Hope you guys are all enjoying your Saturday and things like that. Thanks for spending part of your Saturday with me. Let's sort this one. Let me hear that part again with go.
Where we'll go.
I do like the reduction on the wool. It's not super strong. I like that.
Where we'll go.
Where we'll go. Where we'll go. So you're putting a heavy stress also on go.
Where we'll go. It's a toss-up between New York and London. Where we'll go. It's a toss-up between New York.
Yes, I would have switched to stress. I think you put the heavy stress on go in your first thought group, which is okay, but I probably would have put it again on toss-up. Where we'll go is a toss-up. Where we'll go is a toss-up.
Where we'll go. It's a toss-up between New York and London.
Listen to new.
It's a toss-up between New York.
New versus no. Now, there are versions of American English. You will hear in American English some people doing like an ew sound, like new. But in general, for a quote-unquote standard American English, as if that exists, you don't need to do that ew sound. That's usually more a trait of British English. And so instead of new, do more no. So one thing you can try doing is go right from an N sound to that ooh. It's like ooh, ooh, no. Kind of like things like that, doing exercises like that. Or even doing ooh, no, and making sure that your vowel sound doesn't change just because you're adding that N. Okay, so watch out for that if that's something you want to adjust.
Toss-up between New York and London.
I like London. I like how you're saying London.
New York and London.
New York and London. You're putting a heavier stress on New York. Then London.
Go. It's a toss-up between New York and London.
New York and London. New York and London. Not necessarily anything wrong with that. I, again, personally probably would have put it more on London. In general, what we see with English is that you have a group of words in the thought group. The stress tends to fall later in the thought group than earlier. So if you have two things of equal weight, like we have two places here, New York, London, you would expect in most situations that the stress would be heaviest on the second one, New York and London. New York and London. So heavier stress on London. Doesn't always work out that way. You'll listen to people talk and they're not following that guide. Okay. But in a vacuum situation without context, that would be something I would recommend taking a look at. Okay. Everyone's so kind. Thank you so much, Cito. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Other things here.
Where we'll go. It's a toss-up between New York and London.
I like your intonation as well. Like New York and London. Actually, I want to hear new again.
Toss-up between New York and London.
New York. New York. I do wonder if you're putting the stress more on new than on York.
Between New York.
New York versus New York. New York. I do think you may be stressing a little bit more on new than York. So just kind of watch out for that, as we mentioned earlier. All right. I do hope that's helpful. Marcos, I believe that was you. Thank you for sending your file. I do appreciate it. If you have questions about anything there, be sure to let me know. Okay. And see this mentions that talking about stress. Yeah, again, it's always hard talking about sentences and stress without context and things like that. So these are just guides. Don't consider everything I say here the end all be all, the facts. Like it has to be this way. There's obviously lots of options. Let's take a listen to our next one. I'm gonna drop to the end.
Where'll go is a toss-up between New York and London.
Okay, like York, that's really strong there.
Where'll go is a toss-up between New York and London.
Go. So again, you're putting a stress on go, kind of like what we saw earlier. Let's just kind of listen to that first part.
Where'll go is
where'll go. So you're almost completely eliminating the wall. You're kind of just adding the where'll
go.
Whirl. It's almost like you're saying world, right? Whirl go. I don't want to say that's wrong. I get it. The wall is reduced, so you can do it super fast. It can be pretty weak. You don't need to make it strong. Maybe just adding a little bit more of the vowel from like wool, just making the vowel just a little bit stronger, like where will go. Because in a lot of ways, the vowel is more important than the consonant sound. It's like that sound is more important than the where will go. So that slight I would have liked that to be just a little bit stronger, but again, that's my own personal preference. It's reduced. I think in the context, it'll still be clear to your listener.
Where'll go.
Like I think your listener will still be okay, especially based on context and things like that. But just kind of something to keep in mind for the reduction there.
Where'll go is a toss-up between New York and London. Where'll go is a toss-up between New
is a toss-up between kind of, you really flatten things out here. Is a toss-up between
where'll go is
that first part is great because that part has lots of variation in terms of your pitches and things like that.
Where'll go.
I really like that movement there. A note that I think our mail just came, so you may hear my dog in the background. Sorry.
Where'll go is a toss-up between.
I would have liked more movement there. Where we'll go is a toss-up between. So you again put stress on go. I again would have put it on toss. But let's say that we want the stress on go. And we want to make this sound more natural with the stress on go. What you can do is try to play around with your pitches a little bit more because we're just sounding a little bit flat.
Oh, is a toss-up between.
Right. Is a toss-up. I would have gone down. Where we'll go is a toss-up. It's like is a toss-up. Or you can even go down is a toss-up. Just try to go lower your pitches a bit because right now everything's kind of staying at the same pitch.
Toss-up between New York and London. Is a toss-up between.
Is a toss-up between. is a toss-up between. You can even go lower on between, like between, between, between is a toss-up between New York, New York. I'm gonna hear the stress on places.
Toss-up between New York and London.
I like London. Watch out for New York on the your sound.
New York,
Hear that your, very exaggerated, or
New York,
York versus York, York. Notice how little movement my mouth is making. York, York. It's a York, more York. See if you can get it with straighter lips. Starting with the tongue a little high and lowering it, especially the back of the tongue. York. But again, your placement's always low and open. York, York, between New York and London.
Where'll go is a toss-up between New York and London.
Where we'll go is a toss-up between New York and London.
Where'll go.
Just trying to use those stresses there. So those would be my big suggestions for that file. Thank you so much for saying that. Me, I think that was you. I do appreciate it. Moving right along. Let's try this one.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
All right, so we got the second sentence here.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
I think there's a lot to like here.
I just started.
I just started. So you're putting a stress on started.
I just started.
I just started. I like that. I just started.
I just started.
I just started. I like that.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
Your have is very strong.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
Do that. So I still have to learn the ropes. So I still have to learn the ropes. I'm exaggerating a bit, but that's kind of the effect that this is having on me.
Started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
So I still have to learn the ropes. So I still have. Still have. Yeah, I wouldn't have stressed have. I think if still were not in this sentence, I think you get away with that. So I have to learn the ropes. So I have to learn the ropes. I think that's a very common stress that you would see in that situation. But still is one of those words that, there's some words in English that when they appear, it's very common for them to receive the stress. And I think still is one of those words. I still have to learn the ropes. So I still have to learn the ropes. I still have to learn the ropes. So I would really strongly recommend putting the stress on still. Okay. And it doesn't always work out that way, but it is really common to do that.
Started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
So I still have to learn the ropes. So I still have to learn the ropes. I'm okay with the stress on ropes.
I still have to learn the ropes.
You kind of have this three thought groups. Still have to learn thought group, the ropes, and then stress on ropes. I think that's okay. Yeah, my biggest suggestion here is going to be the have. Reduce the stress on have, or even remove it, and either just have the stress on ropes or put that stress on still.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes. So I still have to learn the ropes. Okay, so that's how I would say that there. But in general, I think lots of good things there. Just keep that in mind with that stress. Thank you for sending that file. I appreciate it. Okay, next up.
Where goes the toss-up between New York and London?
Manuel, is this you? Is this the one that you were warning me about?
Where goes the toss-up between New York and London?
Okay. I hear that again.
Where goes the toss?
Where we'll go. Oh, let me change our sentence.
Toss-up between where goes?
Where we'll go. Where we'll go. It's kind of doing like where we'll go.
Where goes?
Where we'll go. Where we'll go. You're almost not even moving your lips, right? You're just there. Where we'll go. Where we'll go. Where we'll go.
Where goes?
Where we'll go. Oh, where we'll go.
Where goes?
Where we'll go. Where we'll go. I would maybe recommend making that W in where just a little stronger. Because right now it kind of feels like your lips are staying pretty straight, like where we'll go versus where we'll go, where we'll go, where we'll go, where we'll go. Just something very slight that can just help give some shape to this, because I do think like what you said is that this is it's a little bit slurry.
Where goes the toss-up?
Toss up. So again, toss up as a phrasal verb that works great. Okay, but as a noun, And you know it's a noun because of that before it, right? So as a noun, you want to make sure that the stress is on toss. So instead of toss up, more toss up.
Where will go is a toss-up between
Is a toss up. Where will go is a toss up. And just having that stress on the right syllable could have had a pretty big impact on how this sounds.
where will go is a toss-up
Because the where will go is a toss up versus where will go is a toss up. Where will go is a toss up. Just having that stress on the right word could have helped made the whole thing sound a little clearer. So part of this could actually just be stress.
Where will go is a toss-up between New York and London.
Between New York and because I think the second half of your sentence is clearer than your first half.
Toss-up between New York and London.
Between New York and London, because now you have the stresses in the right spot where your listener is going to be expecting them.
Toss-up between New York and London.
Between New York and London. Between New York and London.
Toss-up between New York and London.
Between New York and London. Between New York and London. Just for me, in terms of like intonation patterns and things like that, instead of what I'm hearing.
Toss-up between New York and London.
So I'm hearing you say between New York and London. Between New York and London. Between New York and London.
Between New York and London.
London. I probably wouldn't word London. London, a little sharper. Between New York and London. Between New York and London. Between New York and London. So I would have maybe had a little sharper falling intonation there on London, personally. But again, that's more kind of personal style. I don't think the way you said it is necessarily wrong.
Where will go is a toss-up between New York and London.
Yeah, so I think the big thing is that not necessarily to kind of like the slurring and the mumbling, but I think that stress on toss-up is the biggest thing that's having an impact on clarity. So I'll say take a look at that. Record yourself, see if that helps make it sound a little more natural to you. But I do think you're actually doing a lot of good things there. Just pay attention to that one stress. Thank you for sending that file. As always, I appreciate it. Try to finish up this first batch of audios. Take a look at our first one.
Where will go? It's a toss-up between New York and London.
Okay, lots and lots and lots of stresses.
Where will go? It's a toss-up between New York and London.
Almost feel like you're giving me like 5 thought groups. Let's see all the thought groups I'm hearing.
Where will go?
Where will go? Thought group.
It's a toss-up
Is a toss-up. Thought group.
between New York and London.
I would even say you have no thought group between New York, thought group, and London. And then that's obviously done. So that's a lot of thought groups in this. I would recommend trying to cut down on thought groups, trying to cut down on stresses. See if we can get this down to 2.
Where will go? It's a toss-up.
So right now you have a lot of stress on where. Like where will go. And again, in the right context, that certainly is valid. There's nothing wrong with that. But without that context, or without knowing a situation where that's occurring, you would expect that really the stress to be on toss-up. I would remove the stress on where.
Where will go? It's a toss-up.
So instead of where will go is a toss-up, I'll do where will go is a toss-up. Where will go is a toss-up. See if you can do that reduction, that little phrase there at the beginning. Where will go, where will go, where will go, where will go. Just trying to say it like that. Where will go.
Where will go? It's a toss-up between New York and London.
The other thing that's happening too, your consonant sounds are very strong.
Where will go? It's a toss-up.
Dude, it's the toss-up. Is the toss-up. I'm exaggerating a bit, but I want you to be paying attention to what's going on with those consonants. Is the toss-up.
Go, it's a toss-up.
Is the toss-up versus is a toss-up. Is a toss-up. The vowels are the key part, not the consonants. So try doing like is a toss-up. Is a toss-up. Is a toss-up. It's like I would say try saying it just with the vowel sounds. And then repeat it again just with the add on the consonants. And ideally, you don't want the sound to be too different because the consonants are not as important as the vowel sounds. Okay, so try to smooth that out a little bit with more emphasis on the vowels.
Oh, it's a toss-up between New York and London.
Between New York and I like that last part.
Between New York and London.
I do think your consonants are a little strong, but in terms of your rhythm and your pacing, I think it sounds pretty good.
Between New York.
Between New York. Between New York versus between New York. Between New York. Let's look at that linking between and new.
Also between New York and
between New York versus between New York. I'd maybe make that N sound between and new. Make that N sound a little bit weaker instead of between New York, more between New York.
Between New York and London.
York and I want to hear that linking.
New York and London.
York and I'll back that up more.
New York and London.
York and London. That K is really strong. York and London. York and London. York and London. Notice how much weaker my K is. It's not letting off that really big breath. York and
New York and London.
See if we can hold that breath a little bit. So those would be my big suggestions for that sentence.
Where we'll go, it's a toss-up between New York and London.
We'll go as a toss-up between New York and London. It's just some notes there. Shok, I believe that was you. If you have any questions for me about anything I said there, be sure to let me know. Otherwise, thank you so much for sending that. I do appreciate it. Zubaydah's in the house, everybody. Good to see you, miss. Hope you're doing well. Okay. And by the way, if you are enjoying this, you're finding this helpful for your own pronunciation and things like that, we do exercises like this every single day of the week in our pronunciation group on Telegram, which I'd like to tell you a little bit about for a moment.
Eel, please. I think your O sounds are a little bit tense. I'm going to let O take off the T on center.
So basically in the Telegram group, every day I post an audio file with a challenge and things like that. I then send my own audio so you can hear it as a model, and then you can provide your own audio and I give some suggestions, very similar to the types of things we're doing today. Like maybe your O sounds too tense. We put the stress on the wrong word and things like that. It's also helpful because you have access to all the previous challenges. You can listen to other people's audio files too for comparisons, try to get some feedback. Usually people are making very similar mistakes to each other. So you get lots of different models and things like that as well. So if that sounds like something that interests you, you have two ways to join. You can go to patreon.com/fluentamerican, or you can the easier way is to just join the channel. Okay. And you can see that right below where it says like subscribe and things like that. Okay. Let's try to get back to your guys' files. Where did I go? I think this is the one we heard.
Where we'll go, it's
Yeah, that's the one we just heard. Okay, last two files from our first group.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
Okay, so that's going to be our sentence here. Marcus, please, you again.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
I just started.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
Okay, so you're putting stress on started.
I just started, so
I just started. 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 Just started. I think that's fine. Some other things that you can consider is, again, like I mentioned earlier, just is, again, one of those words, one of those adverbs that very commonly receives stress when it comes right before your verb. It's like, I just started. I just started. So just is something to kind of experiment with and play with. Try saying the sentence again with the stress on just instead of on started. Another thing too is that with your stress word, try to maybe like a stronger falling intonation.
I just started, so
I just started. I just started versus I just started. I just started. Having a heavier falling intonation just is going to help get the word to stand out a little bit more. And so it's going to give you a clearer stress because right now you're kind of moving a little bit fast. Okay.
just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
So I still have to learn the ropes. I still have to learn the ropes.
Just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
So I still have to learn the ropes. So I still have to learn. I like your pacing. I like your rhythm. I like your linking. I think those are all sounding good.
So I still have to learn the ropes.
So I still have to learn the ropes. I think that you have a stress on still, which is great. I think that can work. Also a little bit of stress on
So I
ropes.
still have to learn the ropes.
I want to hear learn the ropes part.
I have to learn the ropes.
A little bit of rolling R on ropes, like learn the ropes. I'm exaggerating a bit, but notice that movement on that R on ropes.
To learn the ropes.
Instead of ropes, more ropes, ropes. Making sure that we're not rolling, not moving that R. Ropes, the ropes. I would try going from that ropes, the ropes, or even like the ropes, the ropes, the ropes. Doing like exercises like that, just to practice linking from one sound to the next. Okay, still have to learn the ropes. Listen to that one more time.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes. That's just a note on that. Hello to that text. Is that last letter an I or is it an L? Avel or Avi or Avi? Or there's so many possibilities of how that could be pronounced. but welcome. Thank you for joining us here. If you haven't sent us an audio file, please feel free to. Again, what you will do, and in case maybe you're other people that have joined us recently too, welcome. You can see again that we have a document here where you can send in your own pronunciation files. Okay, in case you're just joining us, you'll see directions at the very top. It's going to direct you to this website called Vocaroo, where you can record yourself. You then receive a link, and you can use that link, put it in here, and that way we'll all be able to hear you and provide some feedback and things like that. Okay. Avi is like an E sound, like an E. Thanks for clarifying. Great to have you, like I said. But yeah, you can send your link, post it up, and we will take a look. And again, we have finished our first half almost. Last couple audio files, just the one we just listened to.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
Okay, one last file here.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
Okay, so again, that same sentence again.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
Okay, very heavy stresses.
I just started.
Here we go.
I just started.
Just started. Okay, so one thing I'm going to say, two things. So your stress on just is strong, but not necessarily inappropriate. Like if you're trying to emphasize that, like it just happened. I just started. It's my first day. I just started. I think that makes sense to have a heavy stress on just. I don't have an issue with that necessarily. Linking though.
I just started.
I just started. How about for linking there? I'm hearing just started. That's a little bit hard to do, right? Just started. Again, something I mentioned earlier, using either a held T sound on that T or removing it completely are going to be some things that you're going to be a little bit more common. So instead of just started, more just start. I just started. I just started. Okay, that's going to be a more common way to kind of link that together.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes. Just started.
Besides that point, I think that first thought group is pretty clear.
So I still have to learn the ropes.
Then we really move for that second part.
All right. So I still have to learn the
So I
ropes.
still have to.
Right. So I still have to learn.
So I still have to. Something feels like it's almost getting chopped off.
All right. So I still have to.
So I still. Oh, maybe it's the T on still.
So I still have to learn.
So I still. So I feel like I'm hearing. So I still. So I still. So I still. So I still.
So I still have to.
So I still. So I still. You need that T on still. I can't take off that T. So it's not. So I still. It's so I still. So I still. So I still. Just a slightly stronger T sound after the S.
So I still have to learn the ropes.
Still have to learn the ropes. So I still have to learn the ropes. Yeah, I think just having that T sound, just that one little thing, would have made that sound just a little smoother.
Right. So I still have to learn the ropes.
Last thing also on ropes. Pay attention to how I say ropes. Ropes.
The ropes.
Versus ropes. Okay, hear the difference between ropes and ropes.
Learn the ropes.
Ropes. Ropes. I think the big thing here is that placement sounds a little bit high. It sounds to me like your throat's a little bit closed off. It's like oh versus oh. So I would just practice again, lowering placement, opening the throat a little bit wider to get more of that type sound. Yeah, that would be my big suggestion there. One more time for this sentence.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes. Because just for comparison's sake. I mean, thank you for sending that file as well. I'm going to give you guys back your screen. I know we got a lot of new files I want to scan and see how those are. Did a file get deleted? I don't know. Let's check and see. You said it's ending on a Q4. Did we not do that one? Check and see really quick. I think it did get erased. That's so interesting. Let me try this. I'm going to try a different way because I feel like it's gave me one for Marcos. Okay, I was able to get it. Cool. So I'll play that with the second batch. There's a couple more I want to take a look at. While I'm looking at these audio files, though, like what you're hearing, let us know by liking and subscribing. Excuse me for a moment as I'm scanning and make sure these files are okay. Got some British accents coming for you. Get excited. Okay, but that one will be okay. Get excited for that one, guys. Okay, that one will be okay as well. I'm not naming names on who's here. Okay, that one I cannot use. That one I can't use. Although I did hear myself. We got a lot of files from the same grade. These files are oh my god. These files are ridiculous. I don't know if any of you guys have heard these files. You can also play around. I can't play them all, but this is intense. Okay. I'll have to save that one. And one last one here. By the way, guys, there is still time. If you want to get your own pronunciation analyzed and you have not sent a file yet, there is still some moments where you can do that. Okay, cool. So these sound good. I'm going to share my screen. I appreciate your patience as we've loaded those up. Let us get going. We'll start here. Okay, and let's work with this sentence again. Let's hear it again. Okay, let's start off with that first thought group. I just started. I just started. I just started. I just started. It sounds very choppy in the sense of where one word ends and breaks, the next one. There's noticeable pauses between. Oh, I'm not sharing audio. Oh no. Appreciate that. Thank you for the heads up, Manuel. Take two. Serious guy.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
Again.
I just started.
I just started. I just started versus I just started. So notice, I think that first, I think your I is maybe a little bit too long because I is not your stressed word. So you could probably shorten that a little bit. Instead, I would have gone way faster on that. I just started. Okay, let me know, guys. If you still can't hear, let me know. In theory, it should be sending the audio now, though.
I just started.
So I said, I just started more. I just started. I just started. So if you're putting a stress on started, then you would expect it to sound more like I just started. I just started. Instead of I just started, or I just started. So watch out for that if you're stressing started. Okay. Thanks for the heads up, Manuel.
I just started.
I just started. I just started. And there's nothing wrong if you put the stress on started. Again, and we talked about before, I probably would put more on just. I just started.
I just started.
Your R sound. I'm hearing some British influences. So you're kind of removing that R on started.
Just started.
Okay, started versus started. So see if you can say that R, started. I would try to work through that progression a couple times. Just make sure you're getting that R sound in very clearly. R, started. Okay, it's just a note on that.
I just started.
Okay. Also note again, when you have like an R plus a T plus a vowel sound, typically that T is going to take on a fast D or a flap T sound. So it says started, more did, started. Usually more that almost like a D sound pronounced very quickly. Started.
Just started. So I still have to learn the ropes.
Let's look at still.
So I still have.
So I still.
So I still have.
Versus I still have. Ill. I would practice saying ill And I would just kind of practice going back and forth from a short I to a short I plus an L, like ill, ill, ill. Making sure your vowel sound stays the same across those words. As you get more comfortable with that, then you can add in the st before it. It's like ill, still, ill, still, ill, still. Making sure your vowel sound stays the same for all of those. Okay, still.
Started. So I still have to learn the.
Because I feel like I'm hearing steal, almost like like an e sound.
So I still have to learn the ropes.
Going back also to learn. This is similar to what we saw in started.
So I still have to learn the.
So it's learn.
To learn the ropes.
Learn versus learn. Okay. Well, another big difference, in addition to those R sounds, is that again, American English in general has a lower placement than British English. British English tends to be more up here. So you're gonna like le versus lur. Okay, so notice the difference there on learn.
I have to learn the ropes.
Ropes. Again, placement. You're up here as opposed to right here. So you're gonna O versus O. Row. Okay, so again, basically what's happening is you are restricting airflow through your throat when you have some of that higher placement things. So trying to open up the throat more to try to get as much air through as possible. American English is all about breath, trying to get as much air through the throat as possible. So those are all things I would really be paying attention for this sentence to try to get a more natural sound.
Fine. Just started. So I still have to learn the ropes.
I will say that in the second half, from so down to ropes, I do think it sounds a lot more fluid. So you're able to get more linking in, able to get more reductions in. So it does have a more natural feel than your first half with that I just started. Okay. Thank you for sending out audio. I do appreciate it. Yeah, and hope to see you again in future streams, in future audio files. Okay, moving right along.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
I just started. Very dramatic.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes. I just started.
I just started. I just started.
I just started.
I think that in general I like this. I like your stress. The stress is pretty heavy, but I think in the right context that would make a lot of sense. Like if someone has a lot of expectations of you, or anything like that, and you're trying to calm them down, like whoa, like I just started. Like I think it's okay to kind of have some of those heavier stresses there.
I just started.
But what I would say is that on started, I think your T is a little bit strong. It's like started. Again, fast D, flap T. The movement can be a little bit faster, and it can also be a little bit weaker because right now that D sound is pretty strong.
I just started.
Started. It almost feels like you're saying did. Started. I'd make that first D a little faster. Started. So I just started. I just started. One thing you can try doing is try saying started. Try saying with the tip of your tongue against the bottom of your mouth. Started. That can help kind of weaken and soften that D sound so it's not as strong. Okay. I just started.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes. So I still have to learn.
I like your linking there. Or just kind of the movement is really flowing pretty well.
So I still have.
So I still. Notice the so I. Good.
So I still have to learn the ropes.
But then immediately after that, it sounds, it slows down a lot. The rhythm's not as consistent. It's a little choppier.
Still have to learn the ropes.
Still have to learn. Still have to learn.
Still have to learn.
Still have to learn versus still have to learn. Still have to learn. I would try to link it more and get the flow a little bit more. Weaken your consonants. It says still have to learn or still have to learn. Can you say have to learn, have to learn, have to learn, have to learn? Again, it's going to probably feel a little bit weird to do that, but it's going to be reduced and it's going to move faster. And I think that's going to give you a more natural sound. Still have to learn, still have to learn, still have to learn.
I still have to learn the ropes.
The ropes. Still have to learn the ropes.
I have to learn the ropes.
The ropes. Why so you thought it feels like we're adding a thought group.
I have to learn the ropes.
You still have to learn thought group, the ropes. And my question is why are we separating still have to learn, pause, the ropes? I would have kept that thought group moving I wouldn't have ended it there and started a new one. I would have kept going.
Still have to learn the ropes.
Because what's happening is it's making the sound very strong. Still have to learn the ropes. Still have to learn the ropes. Versus still have to learn the ropes. Still have to learn the ropes. I would have weakened the a lot more, and I kept that thought group moving instead of breaking it up. So I still have to learn the ropes. So I still have to learn the ropes.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes. And just for comparison. Zobeda, thank you for sending that file. I do appreciate it. And why not?
Where we'll go is a toss-up between New York and London.
Okay, so this is our second one. Second dose of Zobeda.
Where we'll go is a toss-up between New York and London.
I like to say, so to learn the ropes after all these years later. That's the joys of languages. You're never done learning. I mean, even with English, I'm still learning new things about English too. There's always things to learn about languages. It's the fun thing, but also can be the frustrating part of language learning, right? There's always new things to consider.
Where we'll go is a toss-up between New York and London.
Where we'll go is a toss-up between New York and London. That middle part is getting a little bit choppy.
Where we'll go.
Where we'll go. So you're putting a stress on where. Where we'll go.
Where we'll go.
Where we'll go. I don't necessarily have an issue with that. Again, the way I generally have been talking about this sentence, I probably put the stress more on go than on where, but it's certainly possible to have the stress there. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Where we'll go is a toss-up between.
Is a toss-up between. What's happening? Your consonant sounds are taking over, and that's allowing your speech to kind of sound choppier.
Is a toss-up between.
Is a toss-up between versus is a toss-up between. Is a toss-up between. Is a toss-up. Kisa is a toss-up. Is a toss-up. Is a toss-up. Try not to let that Z sound and is a become too strong. Is a toss-up. Is a because right now it's like is a so you're also shortening your schwa sound in the
Is a toss-up.
Is a toss-up versus is a toss-up. Is a toss-up. Trying to just get a little bit more air in on that schwa. Is a toss-up.
Is a toss-up between.
Is a toss-up. I would also try to get that sound and toss a little longer.
Is a toss-up.
It's a toss-up more toss-up. Is a toss-up. Is a toss-up. So again, I would say that is a toss-up. Is a toss-up.
Is a toss-up between.
Also on between.
Toss-up between New York and London. The toss-up between New York.
Between. Versus between. I would have made that long I in between just a little stronger. Between is a toss-up between. Is a toss-up between. So vowel sounds. Get your vowel sounds a little stronger. Right now your consonant sounds are taking over.
New York and London.
A couple things on
New York and
New York.
New York.
New York. You want to have your stress on York than on New.
Between New York and London.
I said New York, more New York. It's toss up between New York, stress New York, York.
New York and London.
Instead of London, more London. Schwa sound, followed by either a short I sound. It's like London, or schwa, like London. But I personally can use more short I, London. So New York and London.
New York and London.
Yeah, because right now I'm hearing more la, versus la, London. Just a note. Okay. So those would be my big suggestions for that sentence.
Where we'll go is a toss-up between New York and London.
If you put the stress on where, again, where we'll go is a toss-up between New York and London. And just for comparison's sake. Thank you for sending that file. I do appreciate it. I know Emmanuel mentioned that we missed one. Where did I put it? Let me pull that up again, Emmanuel. It's on Q4. Sure where it went. Check this out as we're waiting. Like what you're hearing? Let us know by liking and subscribing. All right, let's listen to this.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
I liked your stresses. Very clear. Yeah. And of course, thank you for sending audio. I do appreciate it. Let's listen to this file again.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes. I just started.
I just started. Sound a little annoyed. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Conveying some emotion in your speech. That's good.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
Still have to learn the ropes. I think my biggest suggestion is going to be for ropes.
Ropes. Still have to learn the ropes.
Okay, ropes versus ropes. Okay, so I would say, like, again, the same exercise we do a lot. So like, oh, row, ropes. Oh, row, ropes. I'll practice that progression and kind of see what's sounding off. Is it the O sound? Is it when you add the R before it? Is it when you add the consonant after it? Where are we getting a little tenser and more closed off? So it's not O, it's more O.
To learn the ropes.
Is it ropes? Ropes. You could also probably hold your vowel a little bit longer on that as well.
I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
So I still have to learn the ropes. That's going to be my biggest suggestion, honestly.
I have to learn the ropes.
Still have to learn the ropes. I think you're stressing the right words. I don't have an issue with the words you're stressing. I think it sounds pretty clear. Just take a look at that O sound on ropes. I think it would have made a pretty big difference.
Still have to learn the ropes.
Still have to learn the ropes. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say. I think that sounds pretty good. If you have questions about that, be sure to let me know. I do appreciate it. All right, jumping back in. Let's see, we got Avalino sent in another one. Let's see what we got here.
Where we'll go is a toss-up between New York and London.
Okay.
Where we'll go is a toss-up between New York and London.
Okay. I feel I've gotten closed off. I feel like not a lot of air is coming through.
Where we'll go is
Where we'll go versus where we'll go. Do you hear a difference? Like where we'll go.
where we'll go.
Where we'll go. Where we'll go. So again, I think doing some placement exercise just to try to open things up and get things a little bit lower, because right now we're kind of feel trapped around here, and it's closing everything off and kind of restricting everything. So you're gonna like where we'll go. Not a lot of air.
Where we'll go.
So some words to kind of practice, like where, air, where.
Where we'll go.
Wall. Again, another thing too. So we have reductions here, right? So instead of it's more wall. Notice that reduction. Wall, where will. Okay. So just a note on that. You can see again. So we have the wall. Where we'll go.
Where we'll go.
Go. Can you hear the difference between those? Again, trying to get more air through. We talked a lot about some exercises you can do for some previous people. Where we'll go. What are you stressing?
Where we'll go is
Where we'll go. I do think you're stressing go. You probably could reduce where even more.
where we'll go.
Because like where you're doing where we'll go versus where we'll go. So I would suggest, hey, can you keep everything low at the start? Where we'll go. Is it where we'll go? More where we'll go. It's kind of like doing like 3 steps up. Where we'll go versus where we'll go. Like kind of things like that.
Go is a toss-up between New York and London.
Where we'll go.
Where we'll go is a toss-up between.
So I do like your linking in the first part.
Where we'll go is
That really does flow together nicely.
a toss-up between.
Then we kind of lose that fluidity. That's the word I want, I guess. It sounds a little bit less fluid. It's not as linked. It's not as joined together.
Where we'll go is a toss-up between.
Is a toss-up. I'm exaggerating a bit, but it's choppier.
Where we'll go is a toss-up between.
Is a toss-up between. Versus is a toss-up. Is a toss. I would say just practice that progression there. Is a toss. Is a toss. Is a toss. You can then add the up. Is a toss-up. Is a toss-up. Is a toss-up. Just trying to keep that sound consistently moving, linking your vowel sounds together more. Is a toss-up.
Go is a toss-up between New York and London.
New York and
New York and London.
like your stress on New York. Think it sounds good.
New York and London.
Yeah, I like New York and New York and
New York and London.
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 I hear London versus Lon. I do think again throat could be a little bit more open on that schwa sound. Again, you're going for London, just a little bit. But yeah, my biggest thing is I think your placement's just a little bit tense and slightly high. I would like things to be open up in your throat. Try to get more air through. Because right now it sounds a little bit closed off. Those would be my big suggestions. I won't hurt you. I promise. It's okay. It'd be great to see you when you're ready. Whenever you're ready, I'll be here. Okay, let's see what's next.
My friend, I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
Some things to pick apart here.
My friend.
Obviously, in American English, you don't want to roll your R, so it's not friend, it's more friend. My friend.
My friend, I just started, so I still have to learn the ropes.
I really liked how you did still. I like that short I link with the L. That is a tricky combination. Going from that short I to that L is not easy, and I really like that.
So I still have to learn the ropes.
I like your O sound on ropes as well.
Learn the ropes.
Ropes. Could be maybe just slightly more open, but I'm being nitpicky. I think it sounds pretty good. Yeah. No. Whole lot to say there. I like that. Yeah. And yes, I do believe it is our friend. He sent us several. Yes, Sita, please get in the dark side. Do it. I will also ask a question of exercise to open my throat. I will be right. Actually, we can do that really quick. So you asked a question about breath. How do you... What exercise? Great question. So if you go to the channel page, I actually have a video that talks all about breath and adding breath to your speech. In fact, there's 10 tips of these things. Okay, so if you are a person who is having some trouble with breath, you want to be joining me in Journey with Captain Accents as we take a look at this video here. So just typed in breath in the search bar on my channel, and I got this. So you want to be looking at this video. It's going to give you 10 different techniques that you can use to start improving your breath and adding more breath to your throat to try to get more air through. Okay. If one of those techniques doesn't work, there's 9 other ones to try. At least it gives you some ideas to experiment with. Okay. Great question. Other things here.
So I still have to...
Next up.
Listen, mate. I literally just started. Do you know what I mean? So I still have to learn the ropes. Now go back to your room and mind your own business.
Like the British influences.
Listen, mate. I literally just started. Do you know what I mean? So I still have to learn the ropes. Now go back to your room and mind your own business.
I like the adjustment he made on the ropes for this version versus the previous one. If you can hear some of the differences there. I like that. Comparing against some more British influences versus American English. And barring this is, I think, the last audio file that I have. Okay, I'll still hang on for a couple minutes in case people have some questions about things that I can try to answer. But besides that, there's also some time if you guys want to send in an extra audio file or two. I have a couple minutes. Little Cockney. Yeah, let's take a look at our last one here.
Where we'll go is a toss-up between London and New York. Concrete jungle where dreams are made of. There's nothing you can't do. Now you're in New York.
Someone clipping this?
These streets will make you feel brand new. Big lights will inspire you. Let's hear it for New York, New York, New York.
I love the strain at the end of that with New York. That was That's great. Someone clip it, save it, send me the link. That was great. All right, let's what a joy. Okay, I will leave this open in case anyone wants to send some pronunciation files in the last couple minutes before I have to head out for my class. But yeah, so those were again all of our pronunciation files for today. And again, these are the same things that we do every Saturday. A mixtape. I might have to go through all of our streams and just kind of pull together all of our things. I'm sure he would enjoy that. Hopefully he doesn't mind if we do that. But I guess I do make notes that I can use audio files. But yeah, that would definitely be a great thing to do. But yes, but maybe you are watching this and we either did this stream in the past or you're with us now and you're kind of just lurking, just kind of seeing what's going on. So again, everything that we did today about listening to your pronunciation and then giving some suggestions or giving some feedback, we do this every single Saturday, sometimes with guests, sometimes just me. So if this sounds like something that interests you, again, I really do encourage you to keep that document, so that Google Doc that you can see again at the top of our chat box. This document does not change. So we use the same document every single week. So that way you can just keep an eye on it, bookmark it, favorite it, and then check again on usually Thursdays or Fridays. I clear everything out. So then you can send your audio files in and we can take a look at what you send. So again, we do this every single week. Another thing too is that, what was I going to say? If you find this helpful, we do this every single day, again, in our Telegram group. So if you want to get some pronunciation practice every single day, maybe you're the kind of person who, if you're not in a class or something like that, maybe you kind of lose your motivation. You need someone to kind of push you, like a personal trainer or something at the gym. That's also what the group is for too. Because some people just need that extra little push, kind of be like, hey, dude, study some pronunciation for a couple minutes every day. Because I think one thing that you'll see with pronunciation is if you don't study it, every day, even for just a couple minutes, you can very quickly find that it gets harder. You forget things. It's not as smooth. But just kind of doing that, some of the daily practice, just kind of keep it regular and things like that is super, super helpful with regards to pronunciation. And Jesse makes some nice. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. Volume is not equal to greatness. Bam. But kind words. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, it's my pleasure helping you guys out. Tomorrow, just a heads up on the video. I hope to have it out tomorrow. But if I don't have it out tomorrow, it will be coming out soon. It's going to be talking about, it'll be another shadowing exercise that's also going to be similar to our workout videos, where basically what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at a movie and I'm going to describe for you things I see. So the goal is to help you practice two things. Pronunciation, of course, because I'm going to practice sentences with you and I'll show you the intonation, stress, and things like that for everything, and gives you lots of opportunities to practice. So it's a great shadowing exercise, great workout exercise, but it's also intended to help you practice a little bit of vocab as well. One thing I see with students a lot is that students have a very, I'll put it this way, my students tend to be great. They can talk to me about politics. They can talk to me about technology and things like that. But at the same time, if I go to my kitchen and I grab something from my kitchen and I say, hey, what's this? A lot of times people don't know the word. They're like, I don't know what that's called. So kind of missing out on ways to describe things that you see, describing concrete objects, physical, tangible things tends to be difficult. So that's kind of another goal of the video for tomorrow, is practicing just describing things that you see in a way that sounds natural in American English. So keep an eye on that. They're looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it as well. And of course, use it or lose it. I think it's very valid for languages and pronunciation. Okay, I'm not seeing new audio files in the document, so I'm going to break us off early. I hope you guys have a good rest of your weekend. Keep an eye out for the video coming up. And also, one last thing too. We're going to do I'm going to be asking for your guys' help. We're going to make a video kind of showing just how words from English are pronounced in different languages. There are, especially nowadays, many technological terms that many languages have taken from English and pronounced different ways. Words like Wi-Fi or computer and things like that. I would love to know how your first language is pronouncing them, so we can kind of compare how they sound across different languages if the word is technically the same, but the pronunciation changes. Thank you guys as always for your time. I appreciate you spending a little bit of your weekend with me. I know Saturdays are busy, especially with families and things like that. So it's great to see you here, and I will see you guys next week for our next live stream and in our video tomorrow. Have a good day, have a good night, have a good afternoon. You guys take care, stay safe, and be well. Bye.